Hi, Chelsea. Welcome to the listening room.
Hey Pam.
Hi. Chelsea is the founder of The Wealth Shift and a business and money mindset coach. Chelsea, would you want to explain what you do?
Yes. So I work with coaches. They need help with their money mindset and they need help with their business because their money mindset is bleeding into how they operate their business. And so I work with them on that money mindset piece, which is truly the foundation of the work that I do. And I believe is the foundation of everybody's business. And then once we've rewritten that, once we've really got dug deep, then we start to build on the business strategies. I specialize in premium pricing and I specialize in consultative ethical selling. So those are what we really focus on. And yeah, I'm sure we'll go a little bit more in depth to my frameworks and the strategies, but that is in a nutshell what I do with my clients.
That's awesome. And so you explain yourself on your Instagram site, which is so well done. I really like what you've done with that. It's really, catchy and you have a lot of great information out there to share with people. But you call yourself a cycle breaker. And that word, to me, when I hear that, I feel like a lot, is behind that word. So how do you explain that you're a cycle breaker? Like, what's your process or your mindset behind that?
I love that you asked this question because when I hear the word cycle breaker, it's so interesting the different perspectives because to me, that's a liberating term and it's such a freeing term. What I picture is being liberated from like the ancestral wounds, the patterning of your parents, anything that's kind of been built into how you view the world. That is what I help people cycle break from. And I would consider myself a cycle breaker due to that too. So how I do that is actually, it is through a framework that I weave all throughout my program. And actually I microweave it through every single module in my program as well. And that framework I call root, revise, and rise because there are 3 steps to truly breaking, I think, any pattern, which is the first step in breaking that cycle, right? And so in the root process, what we do is we go down and we figure out, well, what is the root that's essentially holding me back from taking action on what I really care about, right? That dream. For my clients, it's building their dream coaching business. And so a lot of the things that are holding us back are these limiting beliefs, right? And those limiting beliefs were typically handed down from our parents, from our families, from our cultures. We can get into the propaganda of that too, right? There's so much. But when I think about cycle breaking, it is breaking those limiting beliefs and those patterns, right? That have just perpetrated through our families for years that we can see in our parents and we don't want to repeat. So that happens throughout this whole framework. And that first part is root. And so we get down, we break those limiting beliefs. The second part is revise. This is where we start challenging and really breaking those limiting beliefs, right? So first we've discovered them. Now we are going to challenge them. We're going to say, is this true? And then we're going to install brand new beliefs. And then the third part is rise. This is the action piece, which is so crucial, right? And these first 2 phases, they actually help people who have trouble taking that action piece. There are people out there who they can set their mind to something and they can go ahead and take that action and move forward. And then there are these other people, I would count myself as one, who stop themselves because of those fears that we've built up. Can I really do this? What if I do it and somebody tries to take it all away from me? What if I do it and I screw up and take it all away from myself? Am I worthy of holding it once I have it? All of that. And so these 2 set you up to finally take that action in the rise part and prove to yourself that all of those beliefs that you've had aren't true. And that is really where that cycle is broken. I mean, every step is building up to just finally manifesting it out into the real world. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that was great. And I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing what cycles you possibly broke and leading you to become a money mindset coach and how you started showing up in your relationship to money.
Yes. Okay. Where do I begin? That's a big one. I see myself in transition phases, and each one of those is a cycle that's being broken. That's just how I see life. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about helping other people do that too. I'll see if I can be brief about this. So, my parents divorced when I was 5. Immediately, money became a weapon in my household. Your father left. We don't have any more money. We're broke. I don't know if we can keep the house. My dad's story was, your mother is taking all my money away from me. I think we're going to be broke. I don't know if I can afford this new apartment, right?
Yeah.
So money was scary to me. Later on, my mother, because she was only a high school graduate, she really dedicated her life to her children. But when my father left, that made it hard for her financial wise, right? And because of this, in her second marriage, it made it very easy for money to be a tool to control her. So not only am I seeing money as scary, money can be used against you. Now I'm seeing money as a weapon. And I'm also seeing these additional fears that my parents have about their own worthiness with money. Because my mom had never gotten a college degree, she didn't really feel worthy of having it, of earning it, of holding it. My father, he eventually ended up becoming pretty darn successful when I was in high school, but I don't really understand because he's pretty private about his childhood and the relationship with his parents, but he has this fear that it will get taken away from him all the time, right? And I see that in the way he talks about the government. I can see it in the way he talks about other people's businesses and things. And so without knowing that, I was absorbing these messages and inheriting them as my own unconsciously. Now, how that manifested in my life was I became obsessed with money. And you might say, well, aren't you still your money mindset coach? And I'll get to that because it's very different now. But I became obsessed with money in the way that I'm going to get it because no one's going to control me. And money will give me all my answers to happiness because we never had it. And we were very, there was a lot entangled in there, a lot of turmoil. And so my first cycle break, I would say, was I made sure that I wasn't going to be poor anymore because of my obsession with money. I don't think this was a healthy cycle break, but I did it, right? I got to my first 6 figures in corporate eventually. And here's where the good cycle break happened. So I hit the 6 figures. I was at home on maternity leave with my second child. And when I got off the phone, instead of being so proud, because this is what I chased my whole life, 6 figures meant freedom. It meant happiness to me. It meant I could relax. Instead of feeling all of that, I felt terrified. I started crying, pretty short of hyperventilating. And I had to come to the realization that the money itself did not bring me that happiness. I was holding on tighter than I ever had before. And I also had no purpose in only chasing money. So those were the two big realizations. And this is kind of what I like to call my floor falling out moment because it really made me have to think about my life, about the meaning of my life, about the meaning of my day to day, and about the meaning of money, which I'd never ever examined before. Through that, I ended up having to rediscover just who I was as a person. And that self-discovery led me to Be Magnetic. They're a big influence in my work today. TBM. They're really about finding your authentic self. Another big influence in my life became Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Pattern. And there's just a lot in there. That's when I became really spiritual too, because I was looking for meaning. And we haven't talked about this yet, but this is also where I discovered hypnosis was
Yeah.
in this part of my life. And that is a big piece of the work that I do too, is weaving in hypnosis. So yeah, and then now I'm just very, very intentional with the way I think about money, the way I work with money, the way I talk about money, and the lessons that I teach my kids about money. So, there's so many cycles in there that I could go into, but I would talk to you for hours about it. But that's really how my new obsession, my healthier obsession with money began.
Nice. I'm glad you shared because I know a lot of people can relate to your story. A lot of people can relate to divorce, whether their parents divorced, whether they themselves have gone through a divorce. And I think a lot of people don't tie their money spending habits or their money saving habits to their emotions. I don't think a lot of people question it, and
Yeah.
they should.
Yeah.
Yeah, tying that into your self-worth and self-confidence and like all those things that you mentioned, controlling or feeling that you have a lack of and the fear of losing the money. That's a lot to carry if you don't have some help, kind of sifting through all that. So you mentioned hypnosis and you were
Yeah.
talking about mindset and strategy earlier. How do you pull in or how do you utilize hypnosis in your process when you're helping your clients?
Oh, it's such a good question. Really quick though, I just want to say, because you were talking about how money is affecting our behavioral decisions, there's this book by Morgan Housel called, what's the best? The Psychology of Money.
Okay.
There we go, Psychology of Money. And what he points out in this book is that our money decisions, for the most part, are driven by our behavioral. It's not logical and it's not about how much we actually have. It's about those stories we learned, which just adds the whole nother layer to it. And so if you've ever tried to stick to a budget and you realize you just can't and you don't know why, maybe you did it for the first month or two and then you're right back to your regular spending habits, that is why. That is actually, that awareness is an invitation to look at your behavior with money and what's driving it, which is the work that I do. And so hypnosis actually helps with that. So we talked earlier about my framework, the root, revise, and rise.
Mm-hmm.
I use hypnosis through each one of those stages. I also talked about two of my big influences, which were To Be Magnetic and Joe Dispenza. And now I'm going to add in a third one, which is Marissa Peers. She actually is a hypnotherapist. She's pretty popular in that space if you've been in it before. But the reason I bring them up is because when I had to build my own process for what I wanted to do, my own growth, my own cycle breaking pattern, I had to go to all of these different places and piece it together. And that is really what my work is. It's a culmination of everything I had to piece together. I was like, let me put it into one place and make this easy, right, for my clients. And so going back to hypnosis, each one of these people, besides Melissa Peers, you would associate her with hypnosis, but like TBM's work and Joe Dispenza's work, you don't necessarily relate to hypnosis, but they are doing that through their meditations. They are putting people into a trance, but they don't call it hypnosis because of the stigma, I think, that's around it. So I've woven the kind of hypnosis that they do into what I do every day and into that framework. So I like to call it, during the root phase, a discovery hypnosis. So this is where we're going in and we are asking our subconscious directly to show us what is coming up, what is blocking us, what are these limiting beliefs, because we might be aware that we're stopping, but we don't know why we're stopping ourselves. We don't know that it's because my dad made a comment to me about, Chelsea, marry your first time for money and your second time for love, right? He was jaded from the divorce and I was 7 and he didn't think that would affect me. But when I went into a discovery hypnosis, it brought this memory up very vividly, right? I could picture the moment. I could picture my grandparents' house where we were sitting, things that hadn't come back to me for years because I wasn't conscious of them. And my subconscious showed it to me and it said, examine this, right? Because what that had told me was essentially, you aren't going to be able to make money on your own. So marry for the money, take it from somebody else, and then go do what you want to do, right? So that's the discovery phase. In the revise phase, I use hypnosis to help break that pattern and to start installing the new belief that you want. So once we realize what that pattern is, we start to challenge it. We start to say, no, this is what I want to believe. And through the hypnosis, we hammer that in, right? We build those new neural paths, right, that are so crucial to how we act in life. And then in the rise phase, that is where I incorporate a lot of Joe Dispenza's influence, because his work takes you into embodiment and identity, right? And you can't really go into and start taking action until you believe that you are that person, or at least you can be that person, right?
Right.
And so that during that kind of hypnosis, we do a lot of embodiment, we do a lot of future pacing and identity work. And so I structure the hypnosis very differently for each phase to walk them through the full process.
It's so interesting, right? Like what is said to us when we're younger, even when
Yeah.
we're older, but when we're younger, I mean, that means we've taken, if we didn't address it, which we probably didn't when we we're younger, these things that are told to us about money or physical self, or really affect our self-worth, right? Our self-confidence, our self-esteem. And so for so many years, those neural pathways are just setting in harder and harder. And so now then as an adult, working through that can take some time, right? And consistency and practice actually living that up, living through those new actions and new ways of thinking and new ways of feeling to finally embody it more and more and more. I do find that just so, it's so true what you're saying and interesting. And I hope more people can hear your words and know that there is a coach out there for them to help them improve. Even if it's just in a small way, there's always room for growth. That's how
Yeah.
I feel. There's always room for growth or
Right.
quality improvement. And you're a coach. So are you a coach for just coaches or coach for whoever may seek out your services?
So currently I do focus on coaches. I would like to eventually expand, and I do help people who aren't coaches as well, ones who have come to me and are comfortable and understand that in my program, because it's a group coaching program, but there are short recorded lessons as well. So the people that I do understand, because I explain that I am speaking directly to coaches, so that language is there,
Yeah.
but you can take any of these lessons and extrapolate them to whatever your profession is, especially with the pricing, especially with the selling, if those are involved in what you do. But
Mhm.
the money mindset piece, that's for everybody, regardless to anyways. So I actually have somebody who sells on Etsy in my program right now, which is a big part of my story too. And then I have another woman who she is creating a community for expats in other countries. And then I do also have a few coaches in there as well currently. So yeah.
That's good. There's
So
lots of
that's
people that could use some new information and insight into your expertise and all that you've taken the time to study quite a bit.
thank you. Yeah.
Know much about hypnosis, but I'm very intrigued now about,
Yeah.
I've never gone through any process, but it's interesting to me. And I think from what I've heard from people, it's been helpful for them in therapy and just trying to improve their lives, remembered moments and work through those moments.
It's just a tool. So when people talk about repatterning, hypnosis is just a way to do it faster. It's a tool to help repattern, really. And so when we think about repatterning, you can think about coaching helps repattern just in itself. That does it more at the conscious level. And eventually over time, it can get into the subconscious with repetition. Hypnosis does the same thing, just faster. It speaks directly to the subconscious because it's speaking your subconscious language. And, a lot of people have these preconceived notions about what it is, which is why I think those, Joe Dispenza doesn't necessarily say he does hypnosis because he doesn't want to ward off those people. But because I am a cycle breaker, I'm like, no, I'm going to say hypnosis. I'm going to take the taboo out of hypnosis because I think that this will really be a helpful mainstream tool. And the way that it is, first of all, I do live one-on-one hypnosis, for as a specialty offer, but within my program, they're recordings. I call them hypnotic rewires. And so it's very similar to sitting down and listening to a meditation for 20 minutes. It's just the simple way that is structured, the language and the sequence of the recording is structured. That's what makes it hypnosis.
That's
Yeah.
good to know because some people
Yeah.
wonder, what the whole process looks like. And yeah, there is a stigma to it. So it's great that you're sharing that knowledge so
Thank you. Yeah.
more informed. And you mentioned like the people out there and the stigma and needing to learn more about hypnosis or coaching. What would you say to the people circling or like scrolling through your site, but not quite ready to book a call? What would you say to them to try to get their attention? Like they're looking, they're reading, they're not engaging quite yet.
Such a good question. It made me a little emotional because I wasn't there too long ago, just a few years ago. And so what I would say is it doesn't have to be that hard. You have this dream that was it was put in your soul and it was put in there for a reason. And so I think, if you don't go after it, you are doing a disservice not only to yourself, but to everyone else that you're your ripple effect can impact. And I understand how scary it is to move through the fear. I understand how scary it is to cycle break or try and break that pattern because you don't know what's on the other side. But I'm telling you, it is beautiful. It is beautiful and it is freeing. And again, it's not that hard. It really isn't. Take my formula. You don't even have to work with me. Just simply break down root, revise, and rise and work through it yourself in whatever way speaks to you, and that will get you there. So figure out what's your patterning, break that patterning, and then take the action. That is a crucial piece, which is why I do the business coaching, right? I think, yeah, that's what I'd say. That you have this dream, please just go for it.
So root, revise, and rise. I love that. I really
Yeah.
like it.
Thank you.
So
I
where
try and use grounding language.
it is, well, it's important. Words matter.
Yeah.
Words really do resonate and matter, and people are listening. Yeah, I think that's good. I love it. I really do like the way that fits and the way it sounds, and it's very sounds nurturing and down to earth, doable, right? And something that you would want to do and achieve and get through that. So I know you're a very relatable person. I hope more
Thanks.
people get in contact with you. Where can people reach out to find you?
Yes. So I have an Instagram. It's called the_wealth shift. That is currently where I am right now. I'm building my presence. I also do have a YouTube channel, which I will get into the long form in a couple months, but I have a big launch coming up for my next cohorts, which I'm focused on now. And if you're interested in the YouTube channel, that one is the_wealth_shift because the way I spell it on Instagram was taken on YouTube. And those are probably the main places I would reach out to me. And then I am having a workshop that I'm hosting. I don't know when this will come out, but it will be, I'm sorry, this podcast will come out, but my workshop will come out on June 9th and 10th. And if this happens to come out after, I'll have a recording available for you too. But we're really going to dig into money mindset, what it is, what my philosophy and formula is around it. Because I think it's different than the mainstream that you're seeing out there, which is just like, say I'm a millionaire and I'll be a millionaire. Like that's not what it is. It's so much more than that. And then also how to take and see how that is translating into your business, your current money mindset. So that's what we're going to dig into in that workshop. So I would really start there to see how I work, how I think about money mindset, how I think about business and all of that. Yeah. And then can I say one more thing on hypnotherapy?
Say whatever you like.
Okay, great. So there are some very famous people who I would encourage you to look up who have used hypnotherapy and will vouch for it. And I think that this just helps, again, break that stigma around it. So Albert Einstein, he used self-hypnosis on himself. He put himself in self-trances to really get into the flow state and to help him come up with new ideas. Because again, that subconscious will feed things to you. Tiger Woods, he's used it ever since I think he was 13, but really to hone in on his focus for his game. And actually, it's used a lot in sports therapy. He's just the most famous name that I know. And then let me look at my list here. Matt Damon, Adele, Drew Barrymore, and Ellen DeGeneres, they have all used hypnosis as well for various reasons. You know, people will use it for addiction, people will use it to overcome fears. So hopefully that helps with the stigma and letting you guys know, like, it is mainstream and it is such a valuable tool that I just, hope you'll look into it.
I know people will. And it's great that there's people like you out there sharing more knowledge about it and implementing it in your practice and seeing the results. You saw the results in yourself first and then implementing them and in the work that you do. That's definitely a change. I mean, we already kind of see and hear more about it, right? Even like life coaching. So many years ago, sometimes that was seemed more, like foo-foo-y. And now there are all kinds of life coaches out there, professional coaches specializing in every single area of our lives. And I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. There's something for everybody. There's a tactic and a process that will work
Yes.
for everyone out there. And so it's good to have also a variety of techniques and coaches out there. So I'm glad you're who you are and sharing everything that you're sharing with us today.
I love coaches. I will hire a coach for anything. Like when I was building my Etsy shop, I hired a coach. I'm working with a coach now. They're so good for helping you see your blind spots, and then holding you accountable. Like coaches are great.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Obviously. Well, thank you, Chelsea. I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. And I'm so glad that you shared everything you shared here at the Listening Room on the Coaching Collective online. And I'm so grateful for your story, for what you're doing. You're out there and helping people. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the time and the opportunity.